Welcome to the annual PR and Evaluation Workshop for grantees of the Community Foundation of Middlesex County. First, let me say congratulations on receiving your grant. We're always thrilled to support so many incredible programs, services, nonprofits serving the Middlesex County community, and we appreciate all you do. This video and the slides that we'll go through today, as well as other materials such as the PR kit that we prepare for our grantees, is all available on our website in the nonprofit section on the forms and guidelines page. You're also welcome to send me an email with any questions. We're happy to help whenever possible. My contact information is at the end of this presentation, as well as in the PDF of these slides that are on our website. You can always reach me at thayer@middlesexcountycf.org. Let's get started. Quick look back at the fiscal year 2020. We were really excited for the whole fiscal year to have been able to invest over $860,000 in the Middlesex County community. We really appreciate all the nonprofits that work so hard on behalf of our friends and neighbors, particularly during 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic that had definitely changed a lot of things for many of us. And we appreciate everything that you did to help support our community throughout and that you continue to do into 2021. That brought our total grant making since the inception of the Community Foundation to over $8.3 million, which is really exciting. We're very thrilled to have invested that throughout the years in our community, and we have seen incredible work thanks to our nonprofits through the leveraging of those resources from our donors. Little housekeeping. We are the Community Foundation of Middlesex County. We ask that you refer to us as the Community Foundation of Middlesex County, not the Middlesex Community Foundation or Middlesex Foundation or the Foundation. Once you have referred to the Community Foundation by its full name in any announcements, you're then welcome to always use Community Foundation or our acronym CFMC. We recognize that saying the full name over and over, particularly in a written article or social media post or other type of acknowledgement or recognition can add to your character count. So we do appreciate the first round of recognition with the full names to help everyone understand where your grant funding comes from. And then after that, you are welcome to shorten it. Your grant agreement letters provided language to recognize your grants. It's also included in the grantee PR kit that's available on the forms and guidelines page on our website. You can refer to grant funding provided by or funded in part by with the name of the Community Foundation and where appropriate, the name of the fund or funds that made your grant possible. All of that is spelled out in your grant agreement letter. If you do have questions about that at any time throughout the year, please by all means get in touch. We're happy to help explain that or identify those funds that for those that may have had 4 or 5 funds make their grant possible. If there's a lack of space, we're happy to talk through those funds which we feel should be recognized whenever possible. When to use our logo. For the most part, we do ask that you use the full logo, the one in the middle of the screen, with our full name, our acronym, and our tagline. This is the full predominant logo in use by the Community Foundation. We recognize that there may be times such as a link on your website or a social media post or a piece of collateral that you are preparing where that logo may not be applicable or may not work appropriately. Particularly if you are reducing the size of the logo, say on a web page or a piece of printed material, and at some point the bottom tagline will become unreadable. So we do allow for the Community Foundation and its CIRCLE acronym to be used without the tagline. If you choose to use just the CFMC CIRCLE logo, we do ask that very near to that logo image, you do refer to the Community Foundation of Middlesex County in name by in its full use, to make the connection with the CFMC circle acronym logo, so that everyone understands the connection of the initials to the full name of the Community Foundation. We do ask that you help us thank our donors. This is very important both to the Community Foundation in recognition of the many individual donors and businesses that support the work of the Community Foundation in Middlesex County. It's also a great way to make a connection between specific donors or funds established at the Community Foundation and the work that you're doing. This is very important to certain funds that have a very specific footprint or are interested in very specific focus areas or programs that are providing some grant funding to help make that happen. This is a great way to thank them publicly, to make your community aware of the funds that have made your grants possible. It also helps us spread the word and show the impact of those contributions. It lends itself to a responsibility on all our parts to thank our communities for their investment in the programs and services that make Middlesex County a great place to live, work, and play. There are a variety of ways that you can help us do this. We always love stories, articles, and photos. We do use your stories quite frequently in our communications with our donors. It could be in our appeal letters or our community report on our website, in our emails, our e-announcements. Articles are also very welcome. We appreciate any time that you have an opportunity to place an article in a local newspaper, magazine, or web media page. We will happily provide quotes. We do ask 3 to 5 business day turnaround on quotes. We also ask that if you would like a quote from us about your grant, you do send us at least a section of the article, if not the whole article, and showing us the placement of the quote, so we can ensure that we give you one that's appropriate to the article that you're preparing for release, as well as make it very specific to your grant. And of course, photos are incredibly important to us to help show your work and the impact of our grants. And I'll show some examples in just a few minutes of how we use those photos, but those are one of the best ways that we can highlight what you do. Photos really tell the community a lot about the work that you do. It shows the clients and the neighbors and the friends that you're serving, shows the impact of your programs and therefore the impact of our grant funding. Letters and thank you cards to our individual donors and our funds are very much appreciated. We do share those, particularly now, thanks to the ability to share them virtually. We're able to forward those on rather quickly. They don't have to be in hard copy. Those are always welcome. We are happy to scan those and send those out, but you can send your letters and thank you cards in email fashion if that is simpler and faster, particularly in these days of so much remote work. Videos are a wonderful way to say thank you and highlight something about you and your staff and your volunteers and your organization and tie it into the grant funding that makes your work possible. These are virtual highlights and quick messages. They don't have to be long. Could be a sneak peek into what you're doing or the impact of a grant. Could be a program clip or just a simple 30-second thank you to the donors and funds that made your grant possible. And I'll talk just in a few minutes a little more about how we use the videos and what we would like from those videos. In-person site visits are on hold at the moment due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We respect the many safety precautions and guidelines that we all have in place to protect our staff, our volunteers, our organizations. But we can also work with you to find a creative way to do something similar. We may not be able to come see you in person and bring members of our board and our grants committees to see a program in action or take a tour of your facility or hear more about what you're doing, but we are happy to think outside the box and find new ways of doing possible virtual visits developing a special story or a look inside a program with you, if that would be helpful. If there's an opportunity to make a visit that way, we would love to be able to arrange that. We're definitely open to alternative approaches you may have thought of to bring people in and show them what you're up to without actually physically having them come to your site. So let us know if you have some ideas or if there's an opportunity that we can help facilitate that and use that to thank our donors and our funds for their great work to make your grants possible. And then, of course, there is always the evaluation narrative. We'll get into a little more detail later on about the evaluation, why the evaluation is so important. But a good component, a good portion or a large component of our evaluation report is narrative section. We appreciate your time and your focus on those narratives to really talk about the impact a grant has made, the goals and objectives and the outcome. And then we utilize pieces of those evaluations as we report through our community report and our individual meetings with our funds and donors and other groups, and as well as our grants committees. They find those incredibly helpful after having done those difficult deliberations and reviewing of applications to make their funding recommendations, to then be able to really see the outcomes of those decisions that they've worked with us to make. So how we use your stories and photos. Obviously, we send out email updates not only to our community, but we're in constant contact with our funders, with our donors, with our board, our grants committees, and those are incredibly important. We communicate at a minimum, probably weekly, with all of those groups on a variety of ways. And so we share those out. We love stories, we love photos, we pass those along to show everyone what you are doing and introduce your organization to a broader group of people. We also do what we call a storybook, and these are snippets and highlights throughout the years of the various various ways we've impacted Middlesex County. These stories and photos help us illustrate what people are doing through the Community Foundation, through the various funds when they make contributions, how we leverage more funding to support your great work. In this slide, on the right, is an example of how we use it in a hard copy letter that goes out to our community. We love to highlight just a brief quote or snippet about a grant that's made a difference. It encourages people to get to know your organization a little bit better, learn more about the grant that we made, and the impact it's had on our community. We also use your photos and stories, particularly your photos, which are incredibly important to the development of our annual report to the community. This community report highlights the funds that are at work through the Community Foundation, the donors that are making a difference every day when they support our work, and the grants that are impacting our community. Without your photos and stories, it would just be a long list of funds and donors and grants awarded. Your photos and quotes and stories help really bring that home, show what's going on in our 15 towns, and brings it alive for so many people as they review that community report, learn a little more about how they helped make your organization's depth of work or services that much more impactful, and it's very important to them. We obviously use your photos and stories on our website. We're always in the working on updating that and moving photos through to show the various ways the Community Foundation supports the community, both through grants and in other ways. So these are really important to help us keep that as a vibrant, local, up-to-date tool about the community and the work that people can do through the Community Foundation. Social media obviously is very important these days. So many people follow you. We have quite a few of our own. We do ask that you tag the Community Foundation whenever you're speaking about the grants that we've awarded, as you're acknowledging the grant or talking about the impact or the program that's supported by the grant. Please tag us at least at our main Community Foundation page. We have a list on a slide upcoming of what those various social media channels look like. We do have 4 Facebook pages, so if it's associated with another group, we also ask that you tag that one as well. We will then be notified of that, and then we will share them out and help gather more momentum for you, get a little more, as much public notice for what you're doing, and acknowledge and thank you for taking a moment to thank our funds for making your grants possible. As I mentioned, we do have a YouTube channel. We do have a page specifically for videos on our website. We welcome you to follow that YouTube channel and to take a few minutes to visit our video page, see what's there. Lately, you'll see a lot of our pop-up grant project videos. We're having a lot of fun with that. We appreciate all of you who've shared out that opportunity to nominate a favorite nonprofit for a monthly drawing for a pop-up grant. That was a lot of fun in 2020, and we're happy to continue that project into 2021. If you create videos, as we said, they don't have to be very long. They really could be 30 seconds. We've had a few that go up to about 2 minutes. In the video, you can say thank you to the funds and the community foundation that made your grant possible. You can show some impact of what that grant is doing through your organization. You could highlight a program. Anything goes. Just make a connection. Help us say thank you to those funds and donors that have made your grant possible. We'll be happy to post those videos on our video page on the website. You can get those to us in one of two ways. You can drop the video file itself to me via a cloud sharing platform like Dropbox. Just please make sure that you give me permission to download that video. We'll then load it to our YouTube channel. We'll post it on our video page. We'll share it out through our e-announcement, e-news system with captions, quotes, stories, description of the grant. Help draw attention to your website, your organization, how you're making an impact in the community. You may have your own YouTube channel where you've loaded a video, if it's a broader video, not just about the community foundation, but maybe to several funders or about a program. You can send that link to us and we can use that as well. You will, as I mentioned, you can find our videos page, the main menu bar in the upper section of our website. On every single page has a link straight to those. These are two examples that we'd received in the past of great thank you videos. I always like to give different people a shout out. These were done by Kate's Kids Camp and the React Club in Clinton. Kate's Kids took videos and photos of a variety of days at one of their camps, put it all together as a thank you to our grants committee and our donors and funders. It was a lot of fun. We really appreciate the work they put into that. And Clinton's React Club actually made a very special thank you video of photos and a shout out in video for the community foundation, and we really appreciated that. That was a great early opportunity to show what could be done, and it doesn't have to be very long. We do share that out, and it's very much appreciated by our donors and our fund advisors. As I mentioned, our main community foundation page is obviously the name of our community foundation on Facebook. We do have three others that we manage: the Fund for Women and Girls, the Campaign for Bully-Free Communities, and the Killingworth Community Fund. You are welcome to tag any of those that are applicable to your grant or your program, but we do ask, if you're doing a Facebook post, to please make sure that you tag at least the Community Foundation's Facebook page. We also use the hashtag CFMC_CT in social media posts so we can track things and look for things as well. We do have an Instagram page and a Twitter channel. Those can both be found at CFMC_CT. If you tag us in those, we'll be sure to find those and share those back out as well. We do look for your Facebook and other social media posts wherever you're putting them. Not only will we share them back out with our community and make sure that we help draw attention to your work and the thank you that you're posting, but the other thing that we do is we screen capture them, because many of our contributors may not be on a social media platform, but we want them to know that you are making an effort to acknowledge their contributions, their fund to their communities. We We always let them know how much we appreciate your efforts through using social media to share good news and good work throughout our communities. So we capture those and we use them in email updates to our grants committees, our board, our donors and fund advisors. Then we also use those same screen captures sometimes in our community reports and other printed collateral material. Because not only is it a photo of what you're doing, but the really fun part is it's a message directly from you. It's a thank you directly from you to the fund or the community foundation and the donors that made your grants possible. And that really is a great way to give your message directly to those that we're involved with and have helped to make your grant possible. Obviously, many of us still place articles in newspapers and other online media sources. We don't get newspapers from every community. So whenever you get those, we always appreciate an opportunity to see those or have a copy of them. You are welcome to send a hard copy, but if it's easier to just take a photograph or scan them in and send us that electronically, that's great. We will share those back out as well. As I mentioned, we use their photographs throughout our community report. That really is one of the key components of our ability through that community report to share with Middlesex County the incredible work that we are trying to do, we're able to do with the support of our donors and funders, and then share the great work that you're doing by talking about the various programs we've supported, draw attention to the wonderful photos and stories that you're sending in. This is an example, obviously these are pages of how we use those. We do remind everyone we use your photos in public. We do, while you do not have to send us the photo releases, we do ask that you recognize and have on file releases that all photos can be used publicly. We will never print the name of a child, though we may use photos of children. And so we are always looking for that special photo that will be the front cover of our annual report to the community. We know it's been a little challenging in the last year, but we welcome those as we are working on the next round of our report right now. To that end as well, just a really quick comment. If you have quotes or thank you cards that you receive, we will also use those. On the left here, you'll see we included a wonderful handwritten thank you card that came from a class that received some books thanks to a grant. So those are always a lot of fun too. We try very hard to find ways to utilize those in print as well. As I mentioned, we take all those screen captures that we get from social media and we find new ways to use them. And this was one way that we were able to share your messages directly with the community through our community report. So let's transition to talking about evaluation and the importance of an evaluation. These are not just important to the Community Foundation, it's to any funder that you may receive funding from. Your evaluation is a key component of our ability to evaluate our investment in organizations, services, and programs throughout Middlesex County. It's also a really important key component of how we communicate with the various funds and donors that contribute to us so that we can explain not only what the application was that we read and why we felt, our committees felt that it should have a grant recommendation, but this is the follow-up piece. This is the piece that says you gave us a grant and this is what we did with it and these were the outcomes. We have, as the Community Foundation, have a responsibility to report on how funds were used to our donors and fund advisors and our board and grants committees. This is also a responsibility that you have to report to the Community Foundation of how you actually used the funds, not just the application that set forth what your goals and objectives would be for the grant. So it really is very important to not only you reporting back as a grantee, but us as a Community Foundation reporting back to our community of the importance of those contributions and the impact those grants are making in our community. We often get the question of, what should I say in the evaluation, or how do we position it, or from what approach should we think about evaluation? And we always say, ask yourself, do your grant reports satisfy your funders? Really hard question, right? How do you know without us telling you? Well, one way is to ask, and I often will receive those questions, and I appreciate that. Someone will submit their report and say, if there's anything else, please let me know. But think about it from this perspective. Funders, not just the community foundation, but any grant funder that is providing you support for a program or a service or even general operations, needs to know how your activities have helped to fulfill our missions. So the community foundation, for example, our mission is to make an impact in Middlesex County by supporting a wide variety of organizations, programs, and services that are directly impacting our friends and neighbors. So what we need to know, and what we use from you in your evaluation, is that information of your impact, which explains what our impact has been. Our donors are extremely interested in how you are impacting the quality of life. They may see your organization in their own hometown community, but many of you have footprints that go way beyond. So this is an opportunity to emphasize the interconnectedness of Middlesex County. Maybe it's introducing a donor to your organization that didn't know you existed prior to a grant that we report out on. So this is also a way to raise awareness about your organization and the services that you give to Middlesex County, the programs you bring to our communities that create a positive quality of life. Our partners are also interested in how we are leveraging their donors. We are incredibly humbled and honored to have a variety of funding partners, whether it be family foundations or individual businesses that work through the community foundation and recognize that we have the grants committees in place and we have the processes in place to gather as much information as possible and to make those grants. And they rely on us to then turn around and be able to work with them and talk with them about what the impact they had when they pooled their dollars with the funds established at the Community Foundation to make your grants. We also get the question of program versus capacity or core support grants. And is there a difference in how the narratives or the evaluation works? Obviously, if you're responding and preparing an evaluation for a programmatic grant, you have a very specific program you'd requested funding support for. You are speaking to those specific impact outcomes for that program or service, the specific number of people served in that one program, and in what specific goals that you achieved. Well, the capacity or core support or operations support grant is not much different. It's just a slightly bigger picture, because capacity or operations support grants are looking at the impact of all of what you do, all of your services. We're always focused on Middlesex County, and we do ask that your demographic information focus on your impact in Middlesex County if you have a footprint that's larger than just our 15 towns. But we're still looking at how our support, our capacity support for your organization has served Middlesex County. How many people in Middlesex County do you serve? How many people have you touched? What were the specific goals achieved thanks to our support of your work in a broader frame? Your evaluation must include narrative and demographic information of, did you meet the original goals and objectives in your application? Or for those that may be submitting an evaluation for a donor advised grant or an unsolicited grant, how do you meet the goals and objectives that are outlined by your organization? What did you do to bring those about? It's not just, we held the program and 15 people attended. We appreciate you held the program, and we appreciated 15 people attended. But what were the goals and objectives? Did you meet them? How do you measure that outcome? Are you doing follow-up? How do you hear from the people who attended your program or need your services, that what you're doing is making an impact and helping to move their lives forward? All of that is part of your evaluation. All of that is part of your narrative that you are reporting back, not just on the basics of what you did, but how you know that it's making an impact. How did you get the word out? How did people come in? Who's staying with you? What's the ongoing impact from that grant that you received? There are places in the new evaluation form that will be online to quantify who and how many served. It mimics very much those questions that you submitted or that you answered during the application process, if this is a grant affiliated with an application. So this time, instead of estimating, we're asking for those quantifiable pieces of actuality, the actual number of people who attended or the actual number you served, the specific demographic information that we ask in those checkbox questions. And then we also want you to think about, did you accomplish what you hoped? Did you serve the populace you identified? And did the program move your mission forward in helping your community or impacting a certain group or raising awareness about something or adding something to the rich components that make this such a great place to live, work, and play? All of that are pieces, not only in the quantifiable impact in your narrative, but in the qualitative responses that you're going to provide in your narrative. So when are evaluations due? Well, first of all, let's back up and point out that anytime you send us an update or an invitation or good news, that ties into the whole evaluation piece. All of that goes into our files. All of that is used as we continue to communicate with Middlesex County about what we are doing and funding and what we see in the community. All of those are an ongoing piece of what we consider evaluation. Even if you've hit a slight obstacle or had to pause for a moment and reevaluate because something you'd hoped to do isn't really working quite the way you thought it was going to, or you're going to need to make some minor changes. All of that of those updates are all part of the evaluation. Now, we're not asking you to do a lot of extra work just for us, but if you are communicating with your board or you're communicating with your community about a pause to something or an upcoming event, to just add us into that communication or forward it on afterwards, and you are meeting the expectations of the ongoing updates that we hear from so many of our fellow nonprofits. Then when your grant is finished, now if it's a program grant, obviously that's a very clear-cut line, right? You did your program, it came to a conclusion, you evaluated it, you assessed it, it's over, you've expended the grant funds, and you can report on that. Those are very simple. So when the program is ended, the grant funds have been expended, and you have the information to fulfill the narrative and the demographic and assessment pieces of the evaluation, you submit your evaluation. Capacity building, core support or grants, those are a little more difficult, right? Because you're constantly moving forward. You're constantly doing things and you're constantly offering them. So when the grant funds are expended, that could be at a 6-month point. That could be at the end of your fiscal year. That could be the deadline we require applications or evaluations, whether they be interim or final, in preparation for opening a new application cycle. But they should be within a year of receiving your grant. If for some reason you need to go beyond that point, it's taking longer than you thought, or something's happened and you found a new direction, or you have to make some changes, then obviously that's an extension to that. But the evaluation should be anywhere from the September requirement for new applications to be reviewed. The evaluation should be submitted possibly up to the end of the calendar year. The evaluation form is available on our website in the nonprofit section on the forms and guidelines page. We have developed a new online submission format. It's identical to what you submit for those that participate in the competitive application process. It's identical process in submitting that. You can start it. The link stay that you'll get that you have to save and complete later is active for 30 days. And if there are things that you're trying to attach that won't, you can always send those in an email as well. And when you submit your evaluation, you will receive a copy via email, just like you did of your competitive application. For those that may be more comfortable in utilizing the more traditional Word document-based evaluation, if you send an email requesting that, we can send that along. As we mentioned, the evaluation is not the only way, the evaluation report is not the only way to evaluate what you're doing, right? So as we said, if you have updates, if there's something spectacular you want to let us know, or something unforeseen, or is just really interesting, send us an update. That all goes towards your final evaluation. And it's in a way of keeping us in the loop and letting us know what you're seeing out there. You see things long before we do. You are the boots on the ground and the people at the forefront there. You're working every day in our communities. So you hear and see things probably often way before we do. And that helps inform the work that we have ongoing and helps us communicate with our fellow partners about what may be of interest to them or what they need to be aware of. And then, of course, your stories and photos, videos, et cetera. Those are all ways to provide pieces of the evaluation process or the narrative of what is happening and what kind of impact it's making. So as I said at the beginning, if you have any questions, please, by all means, send me an email. I'm happy to respond to questions or concerns, problems, great things, great news. If there was something that I didn't cover in this brief video and you have a question about something in the PR grantee kit that we publish, that you're not clear on, please, by all means, send me an email. I'm happy to answer those questions. It's also great feedback going forward when I develop this each year. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is that we continue to investigate and develop options to offer through our nonprofit resource center. We are, as a community foundation, about more than just grant making. We find ways to share resources and create partner to develop professional education opportunities for our nonprofits. If there's something special that you need, whether it's a professional development training or it's a networking opportunity or a roundtable discussion on a topic to brainstorm with your colleagues, anything along those lines, please send me an email. We are working on some opportunities for this year. And so we are happy to see what we can do about adding those ideas or those requests into that plan. We wish you all the best this year. We look forward to seeing you, hopefully seeing you in person very soon. But we do wish you the best. We thank you for all your incredible work. Everything that you do really makes an impact in our community. We are very appreciative of how hard you work and what you have done this year, particularly in this last year. Every year we're appreciative of it, but in this last year, which has definitely provided some opportunities for us to see new challenges with new opportunities and new solutions for our community. We know how hard you work, and we do appreciate all that you do, and thank you for your great work on behalf of everyone in Middlesex County.